All right, folks, it is 7:01. I'm going to start this meeting. So this is the regular meeting for February 25th, 2025. For those in attendance online and also in the gallery here, be aware that our meetings are recorded for public viewing and placed on a publicly viewed website. And we will acknowledge that we are on the unceded First Nations land of Ihatisat Chiniki territory. Grateful to live, work, and play here. So if I can get approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you for that, folks. We actually have two items that I'd like to add. So the first one was under correspondence. So it will come between pages 13 and 14 on your agenda. It's from Real Obsession Sports Fishing. It was emailed to council today. It's been provided for the people in the gallery here. And also the minutes on our original agendas were wrong. And so the minutes have been provided here and the ones that are online currently are corrected. So we'll make those two amendments. So if we can approve the agenda as amended.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Fantastic.
Second.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. So we'll do the minutes of the regular, the January 28th meeting.
Motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting, January 28th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Jack. Errors, omissions, comments? Not seeing anybody's hands waving wildly. I will call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed then, so that's carried. Thank you for that. We are moving right on to the Parks Select Committee terms of reference and advertisement. CAO Nelson Smith, do you have anything to add to this?
No, nothing further.
So this is a review for the committee terms of reference, Parks Committee terms of reference, and the advertisement. Is there any questions or comments on that? Seeing one from council, seeing none from council, I mean. I'm just wondering on the second page of the terms of reference under advisor committee members, at the bottom of the selection process, it says members may be appointed on a 2-year term. Do we need to add at which time the goals should be met? And that's through to the CAO.
It's thank you, Mayor. It's up to council's pleasure. However, if the goal has not been met in the 2 years, it's also council's pleasure to continue the committee. But the way that sentence reads is at the end of the 2 years, it's a hard stop.
Okay. And then so then just through to your staff, possibly if they could just highlight that, like this is the length of time, and at that, then the committee goals at the top of the page should have been met. It's sometimes better when trying to get someone to come in to be on a committee, and also it makes it very clear right from the beginning that this is the job, this is what it is, and this is how long you have to do it. So just a comment I had. I'm hoping that there is some interest, considering that we can't get enough people on our board of variance form that committee, which is legislated. So, okay, thank you. Anything else from council? I'm not seeing anything, so I'll call the question. No, I haven't put a motion forward yet. There's a recommendation.
Recommend that the terms of reference be adopted to support the Select Parks Committee, and that staff advertise for members with a closing date of March 21st, 2025.
Second.
Perfect, thank you for that. And we're all good with that? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? So that's carried. Thank you for staff's hard work on that. Okay, so now we have no positions and, oh, is there an opportunity to, so there is an opportunity to select 2 members of council to serve on this board? I know that Councillor Denise is not with us this evening, but I think last time he expressed that he wasn't going to approach to be that, so, interest from council.
right at this moment, I can't commit at this time.
And I will.
Councillor Copeland, okay. And then did you want me to serve on it as well? So it would be myself and Councillor Copeland? How do we want to do this,
Sounds
folks?
good.
Okay, so I will appoint Councillor Copeland. Can I appoint myself? That's,
No, I would do it by, resolution.
so I would move that. Councillor Copeland and myself, Mayor Colburn, are on the Parks Committee as the council appointees. Do I have a seconder for that?
Second,
Questions, comments? Of course, all decisions from these committees will come back to council before anything is enacted upon. And we'll hear how the makeup is going to look like, what the makeup is going to look like after March 21st. And our regular council meetings on the 25th, so that's really good timing. Thank you, staff, for that. Hey, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, no petitions and delegations, so right on to the correspondence. We've received correspondence from Miller Session about their hardcore savagery. CAO Nelson Smith, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
Thank you, Mayor Colborn. Just looking for direction from council on whether we're going to be willing recipients of this donation and whether the area that they have highlighted is an area that we want that funding to go towards, but I do believe the trails and park.
So through to council for questions or comments.
yeah, I'm unable to see it with my computer issues at this moment to get my mail. But this is normally an annual thing that he does once a year, so.
So essentially what it reads is last year they raised $22,000 and more Canadian. They want to keep Zeballos Elementary Secondary School and us on a rotation basis. And so 1 year they would do a donation to Zeballos Elementary Secondary School and once for us. So they're going to split the collections 4 ways. Nooka Soundwater Shed Society, Sports Fishing Institute of BC, Pacific Salmon Foundation, and the Village of Zeballos. Am I keeping
Sounds
this
good.
in? Is there anything you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. So the ask is to put it towards our trails.
Excuse me, Mayor Colburn.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Councillor
Hey.
Jack. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. I like the idea of it going towards the trails. Thank you.
Okay. So then do we need a motion to accept the funds or just a direction from staff to staff?
A motion to accept.
Okay, and then if you wanted to make a motion to accept the donation and put it towards our parks and trail system.
Second,
Okay. I'll move
Second
that.
that.
Perfect. Anything else from anybody? We should possibly, will we write a letter, thanking them for as when we received the donation or the intent to receive?
Intent to, I'll correspond tomorrow.
That would be great. And thank you for their generosity.
Yes.
It has helped you, our other trail projects, in town and the funds have certainly helped. And then with the new trails committee, we'll spend that money. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, and thanks to them. We have our Public Works Operation Report first. Was there anything that stuck?
Fire department.
Oh, sorry. Yep, because my agenda is out of order. Sorry about that. We have our fire department operations report first. Did staff have anything to add?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from council?
No, looks good.
Thank you for that, Councillor Jack. Seeing none, thank you for it. Please remember to thank them for their continued service and stick to it at this.
Their perseverance.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, now we have our Public Works Operations Report. Staff, was there anything you wanted to add or?
Nothing further from me. I'll pass to Hudson.
Nothing further, but
Questions or comments? I'm not seeing any, but I have two comments. Well, a comment and a question. The line breaks over the cold snap in February. Thank you very much for putting that out publicly on our website and the Zone Social page for people to look around and investigate. I think that's really important. So thank you for doing that, being proactive in that. Well, kind of after the fact, but proactive to inform the public what was going on. And then cold weather in the snow have kept public in the Parks Department, cold weather, maintaining parking lots, roads and village-owned properties. I know that there was an intention to, as part of our bridge project, put speed bumps in, and I'm wondering what that will do to Public Works in these events over, how will that affect them?
makes it a bit more challenging, but I'll get around them. They have two located right now in Zeballos Elementary. I just kind of have to work around them and show them. But, yeah.
Oh, okay, so not a real big, okay, thank you. I was just curious about that. Anything else from anybody? Seeing no hands flailing wildly, I'm going to move on to the Chief Administrative Officer of Operations report. CEO Nelson Smith, did you have anything to add to your report?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Questions or comments from council?
Are the new Columbarian niche plates in Zeballos now? The ones that were done?
For to the CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, they are.
Thank you.
And you help people to coordinate that, and thanks for that. All right. Thank you, and I don't see anybody else any intent to speak here, so I will move on to utility fees, proposed increases. CAO Nelson Smith, do you have anything to add to that?
Nothing further. Thank you.
We had a fulsome discussion around this at the committee of the whole, but are there any questions or comments from council? I only had one, the information, will that go out with tax notices and utility fee notices? For the information for the added utilities?
If council motions that tonight.
Okay, perfect. Great. Nothing else from council? Questions, comments? I know we covered a lot. Counselor Deck, yep.
Yes. I think, Mayor, that you had a different idea for the tax increase. 2, 3, 5. Does that ring a bell?
No, sir, I think that what's covered in here is that it is what was done. I think there was a 4 the first year and then a 5 the second and ongoing.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay. And the reason behind that was so it wasn't such a large, so it was a little lessened for the taxpayer. And they were hit with, I mean, it's dollars and it's cents sometimes instead of dollars, the new rates. So trying to ease that burden and let the public know what we were doing and why we're doing it. Considering that these utilities, some of them are on a subsidized basis. The utilities are not paying for what the utilities are taking out of our budget. So we're trying to reconcile that.
Do you want the recommendation on page 26?
That would be fantastic if it's council's wish.
Recommend that staff prepare the next iteration of the rate structure and bring it forward at the March 11th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting, along with the draft fees and charges bylaw for consideration, that an information package be included in.
One second, Councillor Smith or Councillor Lewis, can we do those 2 different ones? So I'll take until the word consideration as your first motion.
Okay.
Perfect. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. And then the second,
Recommend that an information package be included in the mailing of the utility bills that informs why increases are recommended by council.
Second.
perfect. Thank you, Councillor Copeland. And questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that's carried. It's already March. I'm wondering, are we going to do any more village voices? I'm going to leave that in staff's hands, whether they want to do any kind of information or not on that. The whole point was that they went out with the utility bills to explain. But if we could front load, it might save us at tax time, which is a busy time, but it's your staff. Right? Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Next, we have 7.5 grant opportunity for fire smart community funding and support, an application to the community resiliency investment 2025 to 2026 for fire smart community and funding supports grants. I'm gonna put this through to staff. If you have anything else or anyone else who wants to.
Thank you. We have Protective Services Manager Koopman on the line. If council has any questions, he is the one that put together all of this information and can speak to what's in the report.
Perfect. So did you have anything to add, Protective Services, Koopman?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Your Worship. So the village is just about wrapped up its last round of community resiliency investment grant funding once the ramp at the village office is completed. Through conversation with CAO Nelson Smith and Fire Chief Morin, the proposal in front of you is the way that we believe the village can best benefit from the next round of funding, which has moved to a 2-year funding stream with the availability of $200,000 per year. Like most communities, the village of Zeballos has not been able to take full advantage of this grant in the past to the full cost just due to limited capacity. So our solution to solving this is to ask each applicant for a small amount to go to the SRD so that we can hire a second wildfire risk reduction coordinator to assist with these additional projects. And then, the breakdown of the eligible activities is in there. Many of these activities were already identified in the village's capital plan, such as clearing the lot on Keno Crescent, re-landscaping around the village office, vegetation maintenance around the dike, working on the true, and that would be happen through a seasonal, what they call a fire smart crew member. So essentially a gardener, laborer, arborist that can do work on public property around the village each season. So for year one, replace the ramp with non-combustible material at the RCMP building, invest $100,000 into a structural protection unit trailer with equipment, which are simple versions, large sprinklers that you can set up around the village to soak down critical infrastructure and property to prevent it from catching fire with embers surrounding. So SPUs are not necessarily so much used to fight the fire itself, but to keep the fire from spreading into the village area. It's mandatory that the village update its community wildfire protection plan in order to continue to be eligible for this funding. The $18,000 in there is hopefully a high amount. It's the maximum that's allowed under the budget, but we plan to undertake this as a regional effort with SRD electoral areas, villages, and nations the same way we did in 2020. So we're optimistic that there will be a cost savings through scale by doing it that way, and then we can reinvest that in some of the other eligible activities. And then going into year two, focusing more on wildfire training for the fire department and supporting 3 members to go to the Wildfire Resiliency Funding Summit. If you're wondering why isn't there funding for wildfire training in year one, well, the village has also received the $40,000 volunteer and composite fire department grant through UBCM, and there's a hefty amount in that budget for training. So use that grant to focus on 2025 structural training and use this grant to focus on 2026 for wildfire training. And then the big one will also be with this new position at the SRD, secondary position, coordinating fire smart rebates for private property owners where they can be reimbursed up to $5,000 for the cost of implementing the fire smart principles on their own private property. And what's involved with that is one of our fire smart coordinators comes out and does an assessment of the property and gives the person a list of things that they can undertake. They spend $1,000, they get $500 back. They spend $3,000, they get $1,500 back. They spend 10 grand, they get 5 grand back, and it caps off at that 5 grand amount. So they spend 15 grand, they get 5 back, 20 grand, 5 back, etc. And yeah, so there will be some village staff time. In the bit of this, we'll be relying on the chief to help guide us with like the size of the structural protection unit, trailer, and working to set up the dates for the training. There will be staff time involved with the community wildfire protection plan discussions and updates. But, for the most part, to go back to the beginning, the reason that we feel that we can present this very ambitious proposal to council for your support is because through the SRD's current Fire Smart coordinator and the proposed of a second one, you can offload all that work onto us. It's 100% fully funded, doesn't cost the village a dime. I think that's everything. I'm sure you'll let me know if there's questions.
I will, and I will put that through to council, but also wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for your continuous and hard work and getting us so much money for our fire resiliency and for the departments and coordination through that. We really appreciate the help from the SRD. So I'll put that through to questions or comments from council, please, if you have any.
Thank you very much. A nice report.
I've got Councillor Jack
I
first,
would
and
just-
then I'll get Councillor Copeland next.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Councillor Deck. Councillor Deck, you're first, and then I'll go through to Councillor
Oh,
Copeland.
okay. No, I'd just like to thank the gentleman for a fine report. And I sure hope we get the grant. Yeah, thanks.
And then through to Councillor Copeland.
Thank you, Mayor Culver. Is it possible to just get a short description of this structural protection unit, the equipment, the area of coverage, for example?
Through to our Protective Services Manager
Oh,
for the
yeah.
SRD.
Thank you.
In terms of what air, how long can the sprinkler cover? I believe through the, I'd have to do some more research into that, but I believe with the $100,000, of course, it all depends on costs and tariffs and the price of everything, but that should put us close to covering through, I want to say a 200 to 500 foot section.
Has there been any consideration of doubling that?
Through to Protective Services.
So great question. Each year you can only apply for a maximum of $50,000 towards a structural protection unit. So that is why, yeah. So one thing I forgot to mention, some of these numbers in the report are the maximum that we can apply for under the grant. The $9,000, that is the max that we can spend for the Wildfire Resiliency Summit. The $50,000 per year, that's the max that we can spend on structural protection unit equipment. The $58,000 for the ramp for the RCMP building, that is the maximum. So it's the maximum that we can get for now through this grant.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I'm sure that anyone who was here in 2018 remembers the need for such structural equipment when we were dealing with our forest fires. So we've all kind of, people that were here at that time anyways, have seen that in action and really helped to, protect the other village properties. So thank you.
I can also say that Ukulji is very interested in the structural protection unit trailer as well. So ideally, we'll start working on 2 for the area and hopefully get some cost efficiencies of scale through bulk purchasing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for Protective Services Koopman on this?
Good work, Sean.
Being
Thanks,
none,
Barbara.
there is 2 recommendations in the report on page 30.
Recommend that as part of the Village of Zeballos' ongoing work in relations to emergency management, that an application for financial assistance under the Community Resiliency Investment 2025-2026 Fire Smart Community and Funding Supports Grant be authorized for submission to the Union of BC Municipalities. You want me to continue or is,
Yeah,
okay.
please.
And that the Village of Zeballos commits its willingness to provide overall grant management if the application is successful.
That's the most important part of the resolution there, Barb.
Yeah. I second that.
Second. It's unusual for me. The question I have is this is extremely unusual for me that it's not that the SRD do this work, but thank you for putting out that the staff time would be minimized by that secondary wildfire person. That fills me with some more confidence. We all know about the staff capacity and yeah, our small communities and what they're like. So thank you for your work on this, both to the CAO and to you, and looking forward to hearing if we get it.
You will get it. This isn't really a grant. The money is there. We apply for it. We get it. This
Perfect.
Isn't a competitive grant at all. So this will come.
Okay.
Excellent.
I will call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. Okay, we are on to bylaws. 8.1 is a sewer regulation bylaw. CAO Nelson Smith, did you have anything to add to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Just if the council is not considering any changes, a 3rd reading is also available at tonight's meeting. Not necessary, but it is available.
Okay. And I do want to point out that this was another conversation that we had a lot of discussion about during our committee of the whole. Coming up with this, making sure that the staff came with recommendations. We do know that this may have to be revised with any, additions to the sewer to eventually make that possible to this side, but this is for the Keno and the other side of the bridge. And so we could do first and second and possibly third if we wanted to. Is there any questions or comments from council? You had anything else you thought of to mull over since the committee of the whole? I'm not seeing any, so then the recommendation would be, it's on page 33.
Do we want to go for third reading as well?
Depends on council's comfort with that. We do first and second first, and then we'll
Okay.
see if we get a motion for third, and then if it goes.
Okay. Recommend that the sanitary sewer regulation bylaw number 559-2025 receive first and second reading.
Second,
Thank you, Councilor Copeland, and questions or comments? Not seeing any. Thank you for taking the time for looking at like communities as well to ensure that we are under, will we have to get this put through legal?
No.
Okay. This is pretty standard. Yeah, service plat. Okay. Anything else from anybody in council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Any further action, or do you want to make it? Want to move on? Do you want to do third, or do you want to move on? Is that the will of the
let's
table?
do third.
Is that a
let's do
motion
third.
to move third reading?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Councilor Deck. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
All right, questions and comments? Can you just give me a rundown so we can do first and second in one motion, we can do a third and a second, and then it must sit for how many days?
24 hours.
24 hours before we can do another, but it will sit until our next regular meeting. It's essentially what it will.
That's
So it will have community opportunity for, community, yeah, for anybody to come in and ask questions.
if we do third reading tonight.
Yeah,
If there are any contemplated changes to the bylaw, we would have to rescind third reading, go back to second reading, make changes, and then do third reading again.
okay. So that's where the process is, folks. So,
The third reading is like, we're good, we're not anticipating
good, we're
any
not-
changes.
Yep.
We're gonna 24 hours to breathe on it.
but it still does give the opportunity for folks, if they are just becoming aware, to come and make comment and have a conversation with you at the village office.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I am going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, I want to be opposed just for the process reason, but I won't do it. Okay, that's carried. Okay. So now we are on to water system regulation bylaw. Again, a fairly standard bylaw. We are first and second. I'm sure that third is available on this as well. Through to staff, did you have anything to add to this one?
No, nothing further on this side.
Okay. And again, we had an extensive conversation about this at a committee of the whole, or last committee of the whole in January. No, it wasn't. It was in February. Oh, time moves fast. Questions or comments from council? Seeing none.
Recommend that
Go ahead.
the water system regulation bylaw number 558-2025 receive first and second reading.
Second,
Second, thank you, Councillor Jack. Questions or comments? Seeing none, most of this had to do with new build, didn't it? When we were talking, asking the questions in the committee of the whole through the staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, ensuring that the guidelines meet to the BC building and plumbing code, and just a few regulation cleanups.
Perfect. Making sure.
The major one being not tying it to the two different fees and charges in two different bylaws. So now just referring to our fees and charges bylaw.
Perfect. Okay, seeing no one raising their arm madly. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Is there
we
a
wanna
will to
do-
further action?
Do
Or do we want to
do
go
third reading?
up to the will of
ahead, Barb.
council?
Was that a yes?
Yes,
Recommend the water system regulation bylaw number 558-2025 receive the third reading.
I second that.
Perfect, thank you, councillors Lewis and Deck. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh,
Aye.
I thought you had a question. Any opposed? That is carried. Okay. Traffic and parking bylaw 557/2025. Through to the CAO. Do you have anything to add to this?
Nothing further.
Questions and comments from council or a move of the recommendation?
Recommend that the traffic and parking bylaw number 557-2025 receive first reading.
Second,
Councillor Deck. Further questions or comments? The reason we are only doing this is because it's a new bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Colbert, I knew I would do that eventually.
You're moving up quite fast, Councillor Copeland.
I even told you I would do that.
Thanks.
Just because of being a new bylaw and the potential effect it may have on the community. Just as council could do up to 3 readings tonight, as with the other bylaws, but the recommendation is only for first reading, is to give the public some more time to digest what the changes are that we're looking at.
Perfect, and I knew that, so thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity for that and ensuring that in your recommendation that was considered. That's fantastic coming from staff. I had one question, and it was on page 58 under unlawful parking. And that no person park a commercial vehicle, trailer, or combination thereof in excess of 25 feet in length on a local street within a residential area except for loading and unloading purposes. We all know about the lack of off-street parking in the village. And I'm just wondering about the balance that we have of allowing things that have always been done, but also trying to ensure that we're not impeding traffic or making up, it's that balance. And so I just wanted to put that out there and make sure that council was comfortable with that. I know that we are trying to make the streets less congested, but we also are all aware of the lack of off-street parking. So I just wanted to pop that out there. If there was any questions or comments, if there isn't, that's fine as well. I understand that these are standard, regular things that happen in any normal village, but I also understand that the village of Zeballos has its own idiosyncrasies, as does every town and village. So were there any comments?
yes,
Councillor Deck.
looking at this, I think just a preamble would be, please, people, use common sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deck. Amazing. All right, so somebody put that forward for first reading. I am going to call the question on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. Oh, and this also includes that we took out that oversized parking fee and just did the vehicle and trailer. So thank you for that. Thank you for recognizing that. We did point to that to the committee as a whole. Okay, we have a zoning bylaw for third reading. CAO Nelson Smith. Anything to add?
Thank you. Contrary to the previous bylaws, zoning bylaws and official community plans can receive fourth reading and adoption on the same night that third reading is given. And this is one of the few exceptions outlined in local government. So again, pending no further changes, that is an option for council tonight.
Okay. Also hearing that and understanding what we did with the last one, that these are brand new bylaws to Zeballos. I do appreciate your recommendations for sure in all of these. So I'm going to put this to council. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, there's a recommendation on 64, page 64.
Recommend that council gives Zeballos zoning bylaw number 556-2024 third reading.
Second that.
Thank you for that. And anything on that recommendation? Again, I'm going to ask the question. This is mainly new build, right? The intent of the kind of building codes and information therein, especially the lots and all of those kinds of things. Against there's a required off-street parking stipulation in this. This is mainly for new build.
Thank you. Yes, so when this goes into effect, anything that is currently happening will be considered legal, non-conforming. And as soon as that use ceases to exist, then the properties reform back to this zoning bylaw. And part of that is even in an act of God, if more than 65% of a non-conforming house is lost in a fire, you have to build it back to the new zoning bylaw. If it's only 50%, then you can continue the legal non-conforming.
Okay. Good information for the public to have, and thank you for that. Now,
I think further for public consumption
please.
is this zoning bylaw will not be retroactive. We can't go backwards in time.
Mhm.
It starts from the day that it's adopted forward.
Perfect. And thank you for that. I have a couple of issues, but I'm not really going to voice them because I think that they're so small. I do wonder about the term vacation rentals in the called interpretations. It's a licensed use, so does that require permits from the village?
Correct.
Okay. So there's a licensed use of a residential single detached dwelling or a licensed secondary suite. So those would require permits on any new builds or in
Business license.
business license or anything like that. Yeah. And then the other one was the off-street vehicular parking, which not available at times. Really, other than that, I didn't have any questions or comments. I am, and actually, I do have one more. In this, and I know this is for new builds, but this is a stipulation under our institutional zone. So under institutional zones, there are accessory dwelling units on some of our existing, so those are fine. For instance, I think the RCMP station has a little place where you can, as well as the school has teacherages and things like that. Those are all will be non-conforming classification.
That's
But
correct.
moving forward, no new builds if they are of an industrial nature will have those.
It's not just new builds, it's uses as well. Continuing use, for example, and we'll use the example that I'm looking at. Zeballos Inn is zone village mixed use. The current use is acceptable. However, if the owners decided to sell and somebody wanted to open up an industrial rock crushing plant, which is industrial, that use would not be permitted, even if it was still within the same envelope of the same building. So it's the property use, not necessarily the building zone.
And then you would have to get a permit in order to change that usage on that property.
You have to-
Sorry,
a zoning change.
a zoning, yes, perfect.
Yeah.
So you see those signs up around Kemba River all the time, rezoning application, that kind of thing. And then that has to go to public hearing?
I'm not sure under the new Bill 44 rules, there are some that go to public hearing, some that are not, so I can't confidently answer that.
Okay, perfect, thanks. It just came to me before the meeting, that's
Yeah.
why I'm asking. And it's not like it's gonna, that kind of situation will come up in the ballot necessarily, but thank you for the information, just kind of for public consumption.
Yep.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, query, I guess. How how strict is that, the application of that, for example, using this Zeballos Inn or, well, this conflict with each other, but use any place and they change one room, for example, for something that's not zoned in, it's not zoned for that. If there's a building that's zoned as a restaurant, they take the back half and they get a pool hall.
So through the staff?
It's different.
Thank you. Zoning is black and white. So either the use of that property is meeting zoning or it's not. So even if you decide to start a rock crushing plant in one of your rooms, that's an industrial use within that property and not permitted under the zoning bylaw.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's usually quite a lot easier to see in much larger communities, where you get say a commercial one zoning, where that's for retail walk-in. And then in one of the units, they decide to open up a auto sales. So that's no longer, retail walk-in, that's contrary to the what the council or the community would have envisioned for that zone. So very, very slight differences. They're both retail sales, but when you get into larger community zoning, it's for specific uses. So
I guess that was my concern,
Yeah.
because we're not a large community. And what's the variance of toleration of the village gonna be? Is it black and white sort of thing, or is there tolerance because of the fact that we're not a big city?
the tolerance will be on council's plate, honestly, for somebody that wants to have that a mixed use or a change of use to come forward with an application for a change in zoning, or you can do what's called a temporary use permit. And so that's when council's not quite sure that they want to see that use happen in that area. So they can issue what's called a temporary use permit. And then that allows that use to happen for a certain amount of time, and it's outlined in the Local Government Act. I think it's a year with up to 3 extensions. And then at the end of those extensions, then council can decide, do we want to rezone this? Was the use something that fits within our community?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we only really have the 4 zones. So the mixed use, the village mixed use, the marine industrial, the natural environment, and the institutional.
That's correct.
And this has already gone to public hearing.
That's correct.
I do think we may have an issue with that institutional down the line, but we'll see. It's gone to public hearing and the public had no issues with it. So I'm comfortable with. Okay, so we have passed first reading. No, I have to call the question still on first reading? Third, I mean, sorry. Oh, geez. Yes. So third reading on the Village of Zeballos zoning bylaw. Was that moved and seconded though?
Yes.
Perfect.
Councilor Lewis and Councilor Neck.
Perfect. Anything else from council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh. And I'm gonna be, I don't wanna be, I'm gonna be opposed just for that one institutional issue that I think we might have arised. Okay, so where are we at, folks? We are at the 10 before if we want. Hearing none, we are on to 9.1, museum volunteer terms of reference. CAO Nelson Smith, did you have anything to add to this?
Nope, nothing. Thank you.
Council, questions, comments, implications, recommendations? If there's no questions and recommendations on 82. I can make the recommendation that council adopt the attached terms of reference for the Zeballos Museum volunteers.
Second that.
Thank you.
Just a comment.
Yes, Councillor Jack.
If the person applying for a museum volunteer, if he's old enough to remember where most of those things came from, he should be a shoo-in. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Jack. Councillor Lewis, I see your hand up.
Nope, sort of just resting my, I just got my pen in my hand.
Perfect. Okay. I had one question. So on page 84, at the very end of the top section, it says provide a monthly report to council on hours of operation, general operations. This is for a more. I'm just wondering if there's multiple volunteers, how that will work. So through to the CAO. Is this for more of a overseer for the summertime position?
That's correct. So
Yeah.
that staff will work with the volunteers and gather information and provide feedback to council.
Perfect. Okay, that was it. So did I make that motion? No. Yes, I did. Any other questions from anyone? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's carried. That's carried unanimously. We're getting through this, folks. So next
steady.
is City West service delivery. CAO Nelson Smith, do you have anything to add to this?
Nothing further on this. Thank you.
Okay. I will, before we go any further on this, let you guys know that I had a inquiry from MLA Kindy on this about changes in service areas, things, changes in service models, things like that. And so our constituents are very keen to, first of all, have the service. And I know that council is as well. So we are kind of trying to just get a clearer communication line. I know that I had written a letter to Brad Unger was the communications, he was a representative for our North Island area. And I had also, that was over a year ago, I believe, written a letter to him about communications as well. So as you can see in here, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of issues that are defined. And while we know that some of the other options are available to us through satellite, those are not available everywhere in Zeballos because of our geographical location. So there are some places that satellites don't hit. And so just being aware of that while we're going through, this is the importance of following through with, I think, the recommendation from staff. So if anybody wanted to put that forward, or if anybody had any questions first. Then I would take the recommendation on page 87, and that's a two-parter, so you can say it all together.
It's all good to go, the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Recommend that council direct staff to draft a letter requesting City West and Strathcona Connected Coast Network Corporation requesting an update on approvals and to provide a guaranteed schedule of dates on resuming construction, completing connectivity, and expected first day of service to customers in Zeballos. And further, the letter also requests a key point of contact for the village that will provide monthly updates to staff and a contact that can provide continuous public information on the progress of the project.
I second that.
Thank you for that. I'm curious if there's anyone you want to CC on this. Council, I would look to you if there's anyone you want to CC on this. I don't know, maybe at this stage if it's preliminary, but possibly moving forward in any further communications, that would be something that we could talk to the CAO about. Yeah, the CRTC, the SRD, any of those kinds of things. So I just put that out there for comment if that's a will of this council. Or if we want to hold that back and do that as we go forward, I'm not sure. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Copeland.
It looks like we're asking for clarification on communications instead of, I would be seeking action instead of clarification. And if it should be addressed to someone beyond the one people we're not getting communications with now. So maybe a step higher than the regional district. You don't seem to be getting results from them. So maybe step it up.
Okay, so that might be a question through to staff, is who would be anyone else that we could, and I know this is kind of an on the fly question, but is there anyone else that you would suggest to CC, or would you rather research that, come back to us?
Council's prerogative. There was funding provided through the Ministry of Citizen Services. And I do believe through an offshoot of them, the North Island Digital Corridor. And so those are two outside entities that are involved with the project.
So that's to the will of council. Do we want to push that further? Do we want to try this first, and then in our next iteration of a letter, which I'm sure there will be, then go that route? Or do we want to do it off the hop? I'm okay with leaving this as is. I just want it to be out there that there are other bodies that we can be going to if this is not enacted upon. We're good with the resolution as it stands?
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Ooh, folks, that brings us to in camera. We need to go in camera under section 91A, personal information, and E, acquisition, disposition, appropriation of land. Does anybody want to make that motion?
Council to go in camera under community.
So
charter.
moved.
Pardon me? Oh, so moved. Okay, there we go. So moved. Thank you.
Second? Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilor Lewis. I'll take that as a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. We've got a public question and comment period. I'm actually gonna read it out this time because I found it in the procedure bylaw. We're gonna spend no more than 10 minutes. You've got to give your name to council before you address us, which is interesting because, oh yeah, I haven't actually, we always say, oh, hello, citizen so-and-so, how are you? But apparently it's one of the stipulations that you have to state your name before you speak. And then, the council or member of council may answer the questions, but does not have to, and there will be no rebuttal or debate on the questions asked. Public questions. Please state your name for the record.
Well, just a few things. Lauren Welch, and I live in town. And anyway, my comment is that, of course, we still know our parking spaces and all that kind of stuff need more markings, road markings. And more signage around town would be good. Plus also, I think the village is, you know, you sort of saying, get some of that junk out of the overflow. Let them park there for maybe 6 or 8 months out of the winter season. You can get some revenue from that. And then tell them they're going to be booted out or they're going to be paying for it to be hauled out of town. And then you can say, sorry, it's gone. Our problem's gone. But anyway, I think you're going to have a headache with parking forever and ever in this town. I think I'm ready to leave. Home to my parking spot.
Okay,
You got a comment to make?
No.
Okay.
perfect. Thank you so much for attending. We appreciate it. We
Thank you, Lorna.
enjoy your comments and your jokes. And we'll see you again. Thanks so much.
Good night, folks.
Have a great night.
Right.
I'll lock the door.
Thank you. Can we take a fiver? I need to use the washroom.
Me first.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Motion to adjourn? I'll
Sorry?
make the motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion to adjourn?
Thank
you
you,
get the
Councilor
second?
Copeland, for
Second.
seconding that. All in favor?
Hey.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried.
I think that's